Hi everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. This is Sue Schoening from the Soul Lighthouse, and I wanted to spend a few minutes with you today because we really do need to buckle up because we've got a really intense couple of weeks coming up. Now, I know you're probably sitting in a space like me where you're going, oh my God, what's happening now? Can this year get any more crazy? What's happening now? And I was actually in a meeting yesterday. I have to tell you, I was in a meeting. We were all talking around how Corona has affected us and how the craziness that's in the world right now has affected us. You know, all of the emotion that is pouring out and all of the wounding that is coming up and all of the stress that is being released. And one by one, everybody turned on and said they were exhausted, they were fatigued, they were in a space of enormous stress, they were feeling tired out, going to bed absolutely exhausted and getting up and feeling even more exhausted the next morning. And I have to tell you, it was actually a relief to hear everybody else was experiencing it very much the way I was, that I too, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm shattered, I'm worn out, and that this is expected, it's normal, it is something that we're all dealing with on an unprecedented scale. And so before I get into what we've got coming up, the thing I want to start off by saying is if you are tired and if you are worn out and if you find yourself a little bit shattered and just the thought of hearing what is going on now is enough to make you break out in a cold sweat, you're not alone. This is a very stressful time. Be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself, keep coming back to center, keep giving yourself some periods of time out during the day. When I finished with this report, I'm going to go out for a walk in the forests because I think it's so important that we are gentle with ourselves during this period instead of our normal, harsh, intolerant, I've got to get this done, I've got to do this, and I've got to do this. So I just wanted to start off with that. Let's be gentle as we go through this process, most especially with ourselves. Okay, so now let's just dive in and let's see what is coming up and what's coming up. What's the next installment that we have in 2020? Well, the chaos is going to continue because we're moving into a very intense 2-week period. And during this 2-week period, what we can expect is Mercury is going to go retrograde. And I know that makes most of us go, so Mercury is going to go into retrograde, actually goes into retrograde tomorrow, and Venus comes out of retrograde. And we have Saturn and we have Jupiter that are still dancing and they're still doing their retrograde thing, and they're going to be doing that until September. So we can expect that this whole chaotic energy, it's not done with us yet. It hasn't finished with us yet. There's still more to unfold. Plus, don't forget that we actually have on Sunday, on the 21st of June, we have a solar eclipse that is happening, and it's happening on the summer solstice if you're here in the northern hemisphere, and it's happening on the winter solstice if you're there in the southern hemisphere. So we've got a solstice, we've got a solar eclipse, we've got a Mercury retrograde, and we've got a Venus going direct. And all of this is happening in the next couple of days. So let's actually have a look and see what that all means, because it's all very well and fine knowing that it's happening. We want to be able to take it and translate it and put it into perspective. So let me know in the chat as we're talking if any of these, as I'm talking, if it resonates with you as we go through this. Just before we get into that, let me just show you where this eclipse is going to be taking place. It is mostly going to be over Africa and Asia. You guys in Australia are going to see a bit of it. Us guys in Europe are going to see a little bit of it. America, in the northern America, you're probably not going to experience very much of it at all. You can expect it to be at its maximum literally first thing in the morning. So if you can see there on the screen at 8:40 in the morning, which is Central European time, which is my time in Munich, Johannesburg time, it's Central European time, that it's going to be at its maximum at 8:40 in the morning. So just be prepared that we've got an eclipse happening on Sunday, and it is what is called a ring of fire. So if you happen to be lucky enough to be in the space where you are experiencing it at its maximum, you will see this spectacular ring of fire. It doesn't last for very long. It lasts for a minute, two, maybe three at the most. So it's a very brief experience. But when you see it, it is this spectacular ring of fire that we have. So it's called a ring of fire solar eclipse that's happening on Sunday as well. So it's a very busy couple of days that we've got coming up. I want to show you on my planet finder, I want to show you where everything is so you can actually see it graphically. So if you can see where my mouse is right now, what we've got Saturn and we've got Jupiter, and they are in retrograde, and they're sitting on top of Pluto, which is also in retrograde, and sitting on top of Ketu. And this is why everything just went chaotic this year, is because this particular constellation is just, it's like everybody pushing everything all out of the way. Ketu is all about viruses, it's all about conspiracies, it's all about secrets and lies. Pluto is all about death and rebirth. Saturn is all about isolation and imprisonment and hermiting and hard work. And Jupiter is all about overflowing over the boundaries. So this is one of the reasons why it expanded worldwide. So that is why we have what we have at the moment. But then as we go forward, just look there, we have got Mars that is beginning to shift as of today. It is beginning to shift into a saner space. Now, here's what you need to know. Mars governs law and order. It governs discipline. It governs how we obey rules and regulations. So if you look at what's happening out there in the world, there is this massive, massive uprising against the police, against the law and order. You know, wherever you are, we're seeing it, whether you're in the UK or the US, or whether you're in the Southern Hemisphere, we're seeing it in Europe, where there is this, the police are saying one thing and the people are saying something else, and then the people are saying something and the police are saying something else. So there's this conflicted energy. What we're going to find from the 17th onwards, that starts to calm down a little bit. And the reason why I say that is Mars has been traveling through Saturn's houses. It's a conflicted space. Mars does not like Saturn. Saturn cannot stand Mars. And so it's a very, very conflicted space. It's kind of like, don't tell me what to do. I am telling you what to do. I don't care what you say. I'm not going to do it. It's that kind of belligerent energy. Mars has now crossed the threshold, and it is moving into a house that is run by Jupiter. And Mars has the utmost respect for Jupiter, and Jupiter is able to deploy Mars to its fullest benefit. So what we're going to see for a few days, for a short period, what we're going to see is a calming down of this conflagration, of this uproar against law and order. And I know in some countries, if you're listening to this, where it's like the law and order was completely draconian and it was completely out of balance, we're going to start seeing that coming back into balance as of today, which is great. Remember, if it's gone out of balance, it needs to come back into balance. So it's not going to snap back straight away. As far as it's gone out of balance, it needs time to travel back. So if you're in a space where you've had absolute draconian law and order during Corona, expect it to start releasing slowly, slowly, slowly as we go through the next couple of weeks. So that's good news. If we carry on there, you can see Venus. Venus is in retrograde. She's in Taurus, which is why we have just had this overflow of wounding. It's why we've had this overflow of offense and missing the point, not understanding where you're coming from, and everybody getting so offended and everybody getting so upset with each other because we've had Venus in retrograde. I've got good news on that one. But what I want you to see there is, if you can see where that red ring is, that is circling, this is what's coming up over the next couple of days. We've got Mercury that is going in retrograde in Gemini. We've got the sun moving into Gemini, and then we've got the moon that is going to be in Gemini for a 2-3 day period. So what we've actually got here is we've got a Gemini sun moon conjunction, and that is a very, very powerful energy, and we're all going to feel it no matter where you are in this world. This Mercury Sun Moon constellation in Gemini. And I need to remind you guys, this is Vedic astrology. This is not Western astrology. We're working from the Vedic perspective here. So we are Moon, Sun, and Mercury all in Gemini. And that is what is driving everything over the next couple of days, over the next week, next 2 weeks. So this is why we need the heads up. So what is Mercury about? So Mercury is this energy. It controls the mind. It's all about communication. It's intellect. It's reasoning. It is the ability to use language, to persuade, to communicate, to describe. It is an incredibly, incredibly creative energy. And it is very, very intelligent. It governs marketing. It governs technology. It governs trade. And I'm sure no matter where you are in the planet, that you've heard that if there is a Mercury retrograde coming, that you need to back up your computers. Why do we say that? Because Mercury governs technology. Now, we've been in a shadow period over the last 3 weeks, and anybody here who hasn't had a technical glitch over the last couple of weeks, because we are just having them left, right, and center at the moment. So when Mercury goes into retrograde, you need to be in a space that you say, let me look at my technology and let me use my intellect and my reasoning, and let's do the sensible thing, which is do your daily backups. Make sure that you've got your backup plan, because it doesn't say that it will, it just says that as Mercury changes its mind, you might find that things go on the fritz. So this is what Mercury is about. This is what it governs. And it governs Gemini. Okay, so now you can see where I'm coming from. Mercury governs Gemini, and Mercury is sitting in Gemini right now, and it also governs Virgo. So if any of you sitting listening have got a Gemini or have got a Virgo, whether it is a rising, whether it's in your ascendant, this is something that's very important for you to listen to, because this is going to have an effect on you. Now, on top of this energy, what we've got is we've now got the sun, which is sitting on top of all of this. And now we've got a lunar eclipse. And what the sun is all about, the sun is your identity. So if Mercury is your mind, your communication, your intellect, your creativity, your ability to reason, you've got to think that the sun is your identity. Who do you think you are? Who do you believe yourself to be? What do you believe this is about? This is your identity. And then the moon comes in, and the moon is your emotions. The moon is how you feel. And so what we've now got in this particular constellation, what we've got here is we've got reasoning and intellect, which is covered by what I believe myself to be, which is covered by how I feel. So now you can see that it's creating a stormy situation here. Because if I'm feeling good, then you know, my identity is strong and powerful. My shoulders are back. I'm feeling strong. But if I'm not feeling good and I'm feeling clouded and obscured and I'm feeling pressured and stressed, and you know what, the world is pressured and stressed right now, then it has the ability to obscure who I know myself to be and obscure the intellect and the reasoning. So this is why it's such an important space. What is Gemini about? Remember, we've got the sun, we've got the moon, we've got Mercury dancing in Gemini right now. What is Gemini about? Well, Gemini in a good space is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's creative, it's dynamic, it's adaptable, it's enthusiastic, it's incredibly creative, it's innovative, spontaneous, it's wonderful at starting something. It is ready to get out there and make things happen and shake things up because it's outgoing, it's enthusiastic, it's witty, it's funny, it's playful, it's glorious and gorgeous. This is that energy. But now what is happening is we've got a retrograde planet, we've got a solar eclipse, and we're being eclipsed by the moon. And what can we expect here? That it moves into its shadow, which is, it can be impulsive, it can be scattered, it can be irresponsible, it can be in a space where it feels anxious or nervous or tense or jittery, or struggle with commitment issues, or over analyzing everything, because remember, Mercury is all about the head. Analyzing everything, so you're stuck in your head and you're stuck there and you just can't get out of your head and get into action. So while in its power, it's able to start things, when it's in its shadow, it doesn't finish things. So it kind of has a stream of unfinished things behind it. So it is about being aware of who you are and how you normally react. Now, I have a lot of Mercury energy going on in my chart. I have a lot of Gemini and Virgo energy going on in my chart. And how this manifests with me is, it manifests, it makes me a little bit anxious, it makes me a little bit jittery, it makes me a little bit tense, it makes me not able to sleep well at night, it makes me struggle with commitment, not in not turning up, but in committing to everything, because I just like take on so much, and then I've got all of these things that I've got to deal with. Who else can relate to that? That I spend so much time in my head that I actually can't get it from here into action. And that I feel that there isn't a creative bone in my body where normally I can create when I'm in a shadow space, that I feel that I've just lost the plot. So it doesn't mean you're going to be all of these things. What it does mean is that you need to sit back and say, you know what, I have a tendency to lean towards this characteristic or to this trait. And if you sit there and you look at that list on the right-hand side of the page and you say, I have a tendency when I'm triggered to lean towards that side, then be mindful, be aware, keep a heads up as you go through the next couple of days, for the next week specifically, because we are going to find ourselves in a space where we get pushed. So I already know that this is coming. So I'm stocking up on the vitamin B12 and the magnesium, making sure I'm getting some time out, making sure I'm going for walks, because I need to be mindful and self-referred on my tendency to get over anxious or over nervous, or take on so much work that I just can't sleep at night. Can you see how that would work? So this is why we want to be very, very aware and mindful before we even get into it. Okay, so what does all of this mean? Okay, it's all very well and fine me saying this is what's going on and this is what it looks like from an academic perspective. What does all of this mean? So what are we supposed to do with it, in other words? Well, this particular Mercury retrograde has got the ability to be exceptionally powerful, exceptionally powerful. And we want to, before it even starts, we want to be in a space where we become very aware of its power. Now, the first thing that we need to do in this Mercury retrograde, remember, if the tendency is to impulsive and overcommit and, leap before you look and spontaneous and, just, scattered and distracted action. If that's the tendency, then the first thing that we need to do, and starting today, it's going to go into retrograde tomorrow. We're in the shadow period still. Starting today, give yourself some time to step back. Not everything needs an answer immediately. Just step back. Just give yourself a period where you allow yourself to take that proverbial deep breath, and then take another one, and then just step back from the situation into a space where you are observing as opposed to acting. We want to observe, then act as we go through the next 3 weeks. We want to take stock, because this Mercury retrograde, it comes after a period where we've all been locked down. We've all been in isolation. We've all been triggered on every which way, whether it is fear, financial, money, health, job, career, whether it is on really deep social issues. We have been in a space where we have been triggered over and over and over again. And it is so easy during the next 3 weeks that if we are not mindful and we don't give ourselves time to step back, that we're just going to flare up, and we're just going to dive into the fray, and we're just going to be as scattered and as chaotic, and it's just going to escalate. Step back, step away wherever you can. This is a period of readjustment. You want to think of this as a period of readjustment. We all thought that we were starting 2020 going off in this direction. Guess what? We're finding we're going off on this direction. Now's the time that we sit back and we use that intellect, we use that reasoning, we use that ability to analyze, and we say, okay, so this is how the cookie is crumbled. What is it that I need to do with this? This is the time, the next 3 weeks, revisit, rethink, reflect, go into a space where you reconsider, you revise, you regenerate, you release. And whether these are beliefs, whether these are attitudes, whether these are mindsets or habits, whether this is a job that you suddenly realize that you actually hate, or a business that you are chasing yourself into the ground that's not producing anything. This is the period of recalibration. And we want to use this period. Don't be tempted to do a knee-jerk reaction that says, oh God, I've got to do something. I don't know what it is, but I've got to do something. I've got to do it now. Slow it down. Observe, witness, look, see, reflect, reconsider, revise, and keep doing it. Perfect time for us to start doing the strategy. And it's the perfect time for us to say, where is this and what is this about? So we want to use the power of this Mercury retrograde. Remember, Gemini is creative, it's innovative. Remember that Mercury is intellect. It's able to analyze. It's able to communicate. And yes, these are in a shadow period, but in Vedic astrology, here's the interesting thing. Those qualities are strengthened. They're empowered. They're strengthened during this period. So don't think that it's just about backing up your computers and do nothing. Use the power of this time. Harness this brilliant, brilliant energy, and spend it in a space where readjust, revisit, rethink. Use the power of this solar eclipse. Now, here's the thing. If a retrograde is a period of adjustment, and it gives us an opportunity to take stock, to step back, to look at things, to observe, to witness, and to readjust. If a retrograde is about adjustment, an eclipse is about beginnings and endings. And so the name of the game of this particular eclipse is change. Now I know we've had 2020, and if you know it's been change everywhere. Everywhere we look, there's just change everywhere. This is a profound period of change that we are going into. And the first message that it gives us is also this: it is step back. Why do we need to step back? Well, the sun is a fire element. Okay, Mercury is an air element. Now, I want you to think of a volcano here, or I want you to think of a fire. What happens when you mix air and a fire together? You get a pyroclastic cloud. You get it exploding. So what you want to do is you want to step back and you want to step away, because we want to harness the power of this. We don't want to unleash a pyroclastic cloud. We want to harness the power of this. We don't want to have the backdraft when oxygen meets fire. Okay, so now you can see why the potential for this to go a little bit wrong. The power of this is in stepping back. It is a period of beginnings and major life changes. And I think you'll all agree with me. The planet is changing. The planet is changing. We are all going through massive life changes, and the normal that we had created that was before January 2020, this is begging us, saying, what kind of normal are you going to create when you come out of this on the other side of the 21st of June? So this is really, this is, some of you I know are making monumental life changes. You're changing from job to job, or you are changing and starting your own business, or you're getting married, or you're leaving the country, you're immigrating, but monumental life changes. This power supports it. It supports it. It's a very fiery energy, and it's a very powerful energy. So we want to sit back and say, so what are the changes that are in my space? Because there's one thing for sure: change is going to come. Okay, so this is a brilliant, brilliant time to make plans. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you watch your emotional equilibrium this weekend. You really want to make sure that you are managing that emotional equilibrium. Why? Because we've got Gemini, which is the house, and we've got Mercury, which is moving into its own house, but it's in retrograde. And so it's not thinking clearly. Then we've got the sun, which is sitting on top of it, which is being obscured by the moon. And we want to be in a space where we watch our emotional equilibrium. So if you can this weekend, please be gentle with yourself. In the time leading up to the eclipse, in the time leading away from the eclipse, from now until Wednesday next week, be as gentle with yourself as you can. This is not the time to launch those huge changes anytime from Friday to Monday. You just don't. You want to go into a space of self-care. You want to go into a space of self-management. That's what you want to do. And then remember, I said it's a perfect time for you to revisit, rethink, regenerate, reestablish, readjust. This is the time for strategy. The time for action is the 12th of July. So plan, and then launch yourself into action on the 12th of July. So anything that you are thinking of, this isn't working and I need to change it to this, just sit on it for a bit. If you're already following a strategy, that's okay. But if you're in a space where you have a knee-jerk reaction and go, oh my God, this isn't working and I should have done this and I haven't done this and I need to do this quickly, just step back. Remember your mantra for the next couple of weeks: step back, think, observe, and then move forward. Okay, remember Saturn and Jupiter are still in retrograde, and they are in retrograde until the 29th of September. for Saturn, until the 12th of September for Jupiter. So this is our blanket energy that we are working with. This energy is still in retrograde. So things are still being run by Saturn from that perspective. Venus, here's the good news. Venus has been making our relationships a little bit wobbly. It's been bringing up a few old wounds. I've spoken to a few people just recently, and the comment has been, I thought I'd done with this. I thought I'd finished this. So if you feel like you're a little bit like an onion and you're peeling another layer of the onion, that's Venus retrograde. If your relationship has been a tad wobbly, it's been a bit erratic, if you feel like you're missing the points, if old wounds, old wounds in terms of past lovers or past partners, or even old wounding in terms of parents and siblings coming up, that's Venus retrograde to thank. So thank the dear Lord, she's going direct on the 25th of June, so not long to wait. That's next week. And then, of course, we've got Mercury that is going into retrograde, and he is in retrograde until the 12th of July. So those are the dates that you need to watch here. So Venus gives us a little bit of respite, which is brilliant. Mercury starts to stress us a little bit, which is not so brilliant. Okay, what does all of this mean? And I know I'm talking a million miles an hour, but I really want to get through this so that I don't take up too much of your time. The discordant and harsh energy continues because of Saturn and Jupiter still being in retrograde, but it will start to lighten up a bit because Mars is now moving into a far more respectful place. There's still a lot of hot air in our leaders and those who are running the show. There's still an enormous amount of hot air because it is just flowing over the borders. It's kind of look at what I say as opposed to listen to what I say. So there's a lot of visibility there. Our love relationships need some gentleness right now. So if you find yourself irritated, I spoke to one lady and she turned around, she said, even the way he eats is irritating me at the moment. So if you find yourself in that space, it doesn't mean anything other than you being triggered and pushed by Venus. So give those love relationships just a little bit of gentleness right now. As I say, law and order. And from today, we're going to see a little bit of breathing as we move from now into July. There's a little bit of lightening up. Those draconian measures are beginning to lighten up for a while. It will go back again, but for a while we can see that this viciousness that we've been seeing is going to get some breathing space. Don't listen to the fake news. The conspiracies, they're still going on, and you can expect them to get bigger and more fantastic and more outlandish all the way through until September. So they're flourishing, they're doing their thing. That isolation has now given way to fatigue. We're all tired. As I said at the beginning of this, we're all tired, we're all exhausted, we're all in a space where we are just shattered, we've had enough. So the meaning of all of this is self-care, self-care, self-care. We're all shattered. So we've got to kind of give ourselves a little bit of tolerance, and we've got to give the person next to us a little bit of tolerance. Our work, our money is changing, and those social structures, oh my God, we said at the beginning of this year they were going to be realigned. Well, who knew they were going to be aligned this way? This is what we've got. It is continuing as we move, and we can expect some flare-ups because you guys have got the heads up of what to do with Gemini and Mercury retrograde and the lunar eclipse, there's the solar eclipse, and you've got the heads up. But here's the thing, most of the planet doesn't. So all of those things that we said you can expect of scattered and erratic and nervous and tense and acting out and distracted and overcommitting and under-delivering, or, you know, all of that scattered energy, or jumping in and impulsive and spontaneous and, you know, rushing in where angels fear to tread, and changing direction, you know, midstream. All of that is what we can expect from those around us. So, you know, that whole thing is just be in that space where you're gentle with yourself, and you're tolerant with yourself, and you protect yourself so that you hold your structure firm, so that the chaos around you is not going to pull you into it. Because this Mercury retrogrades, it's a big one. It's some of them are, some of them aren't. This one's an important one. So there you go. Once again, and I cannot stress this enough, expect powerful changes to come out of left field. 2020 had us thinking that we were going in one direction, and actually we're kind of doing the two-step shuffle, and we're heading off in a completely different direction. Continue to expect that. The way I like to work with this, instead of thinking it's got to be this way and it has to look like this way, so it's rigid and it's stressed and it's structured, stay in a space of curiosity. I'm curious what's coming today. I'm curious how many clients I'm going to speak to today. I'm curious when this is going to happen. I'm curious how this is going to unfold, because the universe right now is delivering out of left field. It really is. So if we were in a space where we thought there's a strategy, there's the plan, don't be surprised if we're getting blown a little bit out of left field. It doesn't say the changes, the happenings are not good. It just says they come in a way that we didn't quite expect them. So be curious, allow yourself to stay curious, because what you do know is the universe is dancing with itself in the most powerful way at the moment. We can see it, we can experience, it's dancing with itself. I'm curious how that's going to show up for me today. And then allow yourself to stay in that sense of curiosity. So there you have it, very short, very sweet, very quick, and it's a powerful, powerful couple of weeks that we've got coming up. Nothing to be frightened of, but please do back up your technology. Leverage it, use it. It can be the most empowering period of going through this weekend, with the solar eclipse, with the moon, the sun, and Mercury in Gemini. This is a very, very powerful constellation. So leverage it. Be curious how it's going to show up for you, and be kind and be gentle with yourself. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. I hope you can take some of these tips that I've given you and use them. Before you go, if you liked this video, can I ask you 3 things? Number 1, hit the like button, because that just makes me feel good about what we do here every month. Number 2, subscribe, because it would be great to just grow this. And number 3, if you found it useful, share it on to somebody else who you think might find it interesting. Thank you so much. If you need me, you know where to get hold of me, www.thesoullighthouse.com, or drop me an email, and I will see you soon. Have a fabulous, empowered, glorious day. Bye for now.